So what do you think about the weather we're having?
I don't know. I think it's just
What are you doing on your computer there?
I'm just looking up some shit for my video. Are you filming right now?
Oh my gosh, I am.
What's up, guys? We're back again here at the Rubber Soul, and I'm super excited to talk about this album. I've kind of been looking forward to it all week, and that is Drunk by Thundercat. Originally heard about this album in an interview Pharrell did on Beats Radio with Anderson .Paak, and they mentioned Thundercat in passing and really seemed obsessed with this album that he was making, so I was like, okay, let's put it on the radar. And I had no idea who Thundercat was at all. That was the only mention I've heard of it. Also, that Flying Lotus had tweeted something about him working on the album together, which also made me very excited because I'm a big Flying Lotus fan. I love his style of producing, so I was really excited to dive into this album, and it did not disappoint. It's fantastic, to be perfectly honest. It sounds pretty much like if a video game nerd made a funk album. It's really quirky. It sounds like a mixture of like new age production with jazz and funk and even a little bit of Motown influence in there. It's all over the place. It's got great production. It's got funny lyrics. I was laughing throughout the whole album. It's just really goofy. Some incredible bass solos from Thundercat. I'm not sure if the bass is his his instrument of choice, but wow, he's really fucking good at it. So I'm super impressed with this album. I believe it is his third studio release, even though I was not privy to him before. And it really does show. It sounds like he knows exactly what sound he's going for, exactly what feel he's going for. It was just everything from, like I said, Motown to, super like intricately produced, like crazy beats to something as simple as he just spazzes on the bass for a full song. It was absolutely fantastic. We'll just get the complaints out of the way because there's very few of them. This album was a little bit long for me. It runs a little bit over an hour. It's a very good beefy track list. I believe it's 23 songs if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it just kind of at a certain point, at least upon my first listen, dragged on a little bit just because a lot of the style of the songs are very similar, but it really wasn't anything to turn me off from the album as a whole. I really enjoyed it. Also, there is a feature from Wiz Khalifa on this album. Wiz Khalifa does not need to be on this album. But anyway, moving on. So as we go into the track list, we have a very kind of trippy, sort of Alice in Wonderland themed intro called Rabbit Ho, short for Rabbit Hole. Loved it. Great use of synthesizers. This is really just kind of sets the tone for the entire album. It's called Drunk. From this impression, I got a lot of kind of, as far as storylines go, going through the ups and downs of being drunk in a club, where you start, where you finish, the up, the down, and like the multiple, falling in bed at the end of the night, waking up in the morning, how you feel, trying to get yourself to feel normal again. And that's when we kind of move into Captain Stupido, the second track on the album. Hilarious. So funny. One of the lines in the chorus is he's kind of talking to himself, trying to talk himself into feeling normal after what seems to be a drunk night out or maybe under the influence of some kind of drug. And it's just like, brush your teeth, comb your beard, and then the next lines are beat your meat, go to sleep. And it's just so funny, so great. Put over a great beat. Again, this is a great use of synthesizers. You'll see that throughout the whole album. Next track goes into and it's literally just Thundercat going crazy on the bass for like 2 minutes, and it is just as fantastic as it sounds. He's an incredible command of the instrument. You don't really see too many musicians nowadays focus exclusively on the bass because it is kind of put in the background. You got drummers, electric guitar or acoustic guitar most of the time, even some piano, but very few people focus on the bass, which is fantastic. I really did love that. Moving on, we go into Bus on the Streets, which sounds like kind of like an early 60s sitcom theme song paired with like something that the Jackson 5 or maybe even the Bee Gees would make. It was really fun, and it's just kind of Thundercat making fun of society for being so addicted to technology. Really just being blunt. There's not any crazy metaphorical lyricism here. It's just him kind of literally making fun of the world as well as himself, and just the way that he does it paired with the instrumentation is so great. You can definitely hear the Flying Lotus influence throughout this album, which I'm super stoked on. I love it. I'm so happy with how it turned out. And moving on, so we have a couple tracks that I loved almost every single one of them, but I just want to make reference to a few. Jethro, a little bit down into the album, might be one of my favorites. It has the hardest hitting kick and snare combo. We all know how I'm a fan of that throughout the whole album thus far, and I just really love the lyricism. Again, nothing too crazy, nothing that's going to make you have to replay it over 3 times to understand it, but something that's just kind of fun. It's goofy, it'll make you laugh, but it still has the message that you want to hear in there. Moving on down, we have Walk On By. Kind of a little bit of sampling, or maybe some influence at least, drawn from the beginning of the song Sexual Healing. It's very of that era and very vibey. An amazing verse, as always, from Kendrick Lamar. I mean, the dude seriously can't mix. He can't miss at all. I was super impressed with it. Love the way that he was able to go over this style of beat, because you wouldn't think that it would lend it to rapping very well, but loved it. Love that song. Moving on, we get into Black, which sounds like it might even be influenced a little bit by salsa or merengue. It's very tropical, it's very bright, very fun. Again, this is one of the instances where either he or somebody who has playing for him is just kind of spazzing on the synthesizer or organ. Really great solos, extremely talented instrumentation on this album. I love it so much. Moving on, we get into Tokyo, which is literally just a song about being super excited to drive around in Tokyo, like straight out of an anime nerd's mouth pretty much. So again, one of the more kind of light and funny songs. Wonderful. Moving on into Jamil, I didn't really have too much to say about this other than when I first listened to it, it struck me that it sounded like some Sonic the Hedgehog video games I used to play. So really kind of connected a little bit with some of the elements of the nerd vibes that he definitely, which, you know, part of his personality. Put it in the album and it works great. Paired the two together, sounds fantastic. Moving on down, we kind of go into Them Changes, which is the song that Pharrell and Anderson .Paak were talking about in their interview. So I was super excited to hear it. Has a really hard-hitting, funky bass line. It's just a really it's a little bit dark. It's about heartbreak, but it's just, I can't help but move. It's so great. And then moving on down, we get into Drink That, which features Wiz Khalifa. Again, I'm not a fan of Wiz Khalifa at all. I'm just going to be perfectly frank about it. And I really thought the album could do without him. He's kind of awkward and clashes with the general smoothness and kind of mellowed tone of this album, which you wouldn't think would happen because it's Wiz Khalifa. He should be completely mellow, but I just didn't enjoy his verse, didn't enjoy his presence. Totally could have done without him, to be perfectly honest. And then we have Turn Down, one of the last tracks on the album, which features Pharrell himself. They go back and forth with matching verses, singing incredibly. Lyrical content is on point. Pharrell kind of dives into a little bit of the oppression and kind of mistreating of the Black Lives Matter movement and black people in general in America, and kind of uses his voice to make a stance on that, which I really appreciated. I always love when people, you know, take a stand on those certain issues and don't just kind of float in the middle and hide behind whatever door they have in front of them. So I really like that. But yeah, this whole album, there's a few more tracks after that, but it does this is kind of the point where I started to lose my train of thought and interest a little bit, just because it is so long and it does consist of a lot of the same songs. But nevertheless, this album is fun. It's definitely the most original, the most new sounding album I've heard this year, maybe even in 2016 as well. It's just so good. Like, I love it. I love this album. Again, my only complaint was Wiz Khalifa, and that had nothing to do with Thundercat himself, you know, and his performance in the song. I thought his parts were great. But yeah, so out of this, everything, I'm just going to give this album a 9 out of 10. I love it. I totally recommend it to anybody that wants to listen to it. I think it can appeal to a wide spread of different types of music lovers. So definitely go out and pick this one up. Support Thundercat on his come up. You know, I really think this album is going to kind of put him right into the spotlight and show what a talented musician he is. I look forward to diving into his discography before this release as well. So tell me what you think. Did you dig it? Do you want to dump it? What do you like? What do you hate about it? Am I missing anything? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.